Salah Mohammed was 30 when an airstrike killed him in Musakala. Palwasha was 2 when a plane crashed into her home in Helmand. Safeda, 3, plane crashed into home, Helmand. Atagul, shot during a raid in Kandahar. Muhammad Alam, shot during raid Kandahar. Muhammad Nasim, shot during raid Kandahar. Mahibullah Muhammad, shot during raid Kandahar. Muhammad Aslam, shot during raid Kandahar. Muhammad Ayub, shot during raid Kandahar. Habibullah, shot during raid Kandahar.
Janat Gul, age 40, shot. Khanum Agha, age 25, shot, killed by an Apache helicopter. Mahmoud Wakil, aged 4, killed. Muhammad, shot. Khadija, age 13, shot. Muhammad Jan, shot. Raouf, shot. Alam Zair, shot. Abdul Karim, shot. Abdul Hakim, airstrike.
Gafar Chopin, aged 4, from an airstrike. Ramzan Japan, aged 45, from an airstrike. Riyah, aged 31, from an airstrike. On the same day, in Patika province, Husana, aged 6, from an airstrike. Zaida, aged 5, from an airstrike. Rowana, aged 3, from an airstrike. Ula, aged 3, from an airstrike. Noor Ali, aged 2, from an airstrike. And Saeed Rahman, aged 2, from an airstrike. 6 children on the same day from an airstrike.
Sam Alexander, a Marine aged 28 from London, killed in an explosion in Helmand. Kevin Fortuna, Colour Sergeant, aged 36, from Portsmouth, killed in an explosion in Helmand. Nigel Dean Mead, a Marine aged 19, from Carmarthen, killed in an explosion in Helmand. Lisa Head, Captain, aged 29, from West Yorkshire, killed in an explosion in Helmand. Alan Cameron, Colour Sergeant, aged 42, from West Lothian, killed in an explosion in Helmand.
It's 10 years since this meaningless war in Afghanistan began. It's also 10 years to the day that the Taliban released me on humanitarian grounds. And I was in a prison in Kabul when the war started, so I know the terror, the sheer terror of being bombed by Britain and America. And that night I thought, if I survive this, God, please let me survive. I will join an anti-war movement when I get out and tell people about the futility of war, because it just terrorizes civilians. And here we are 10 years on. I learnt my lesson one night of being bombed, of experiencing what it was like to be bombed, and yet 10 years on the British government is entrenched in a war it cannot win. It's a junior partner in an alliance with America, who really should have picked the phone up and spoken to the Russians before they went in, and the Russians would have told them it's easy to get into Afghanistan, anybody can invade Afghanistan, but nobody can occupy it, nobody can hold it, nobody can win in Afghanistan.
10 years ago, we came here and we declared that any war, any attack against Afghanistan will never be in our name. At the time, the government and our detractors accused us that we didn't want for the Afghan people what we enjoy and take for granted ourselves. They accused us that we did not want them to live in a state of democracy. They accused us that we did not want for them freedom, liberty, that we did not want for their children proper education, that we did not want for their women liberation and freedom. That's what they accused us of. 10 years on, Afghanistan has no security. Afghanistan has no freedom. Afghanistan's women have no liberty. There is no democracy. Terrorism and violence is still rife. The drug trade is still booming. That is the state of affairs 10 years on.
1, 2, 3, 4! We don't want your bloody war! 5, 6, 7, 8! Spend it on the welfare state! 1, 2, 3, 4! We don't want your bloody war! 5, 6, 7, 8! Spend it on the welfare state!
Somebody told me that her husband was in the Canadian forces, and he knew definitely, because he'd seen it happen, he knew definitely that he had killed somebody, that he had shot somebody. He was a soldier and he was shooting somebody on the other side, but he knew that he had killed somebody. And as he came to the end of his life and he knew that he was dying, his wife told me that he was obsessed with the idea that one day he would hear a knock on the door and the soldier that he had killed would be there. He would have been mistaken, and the soldier would come to his door and say, "No, it's fine. I didn't die. You didn't kill me. You've lived unnecessarily with that guilt for the whole of your life. It's okay, I lived my life. Everything was all right." And obviously it never happened.
We're marching to Downing Street to tell David Cameron to bring the troops home now! Take it slowly, take it steady, after 3. 1, 2, 3, let's go! David Cameron, you know that the war in Afghanistan is a disastrous and criminal failure. Every diplomat, every general, every commentator tells you so. You know that the lives that have been lost there are lives being lost in vain. So let me just ask you, first of all, what are you going to say to the families of the soldiers that will die in Afghanistan in the next 3 or 4 years just because they're dying to save NATO's face? How will you justify maintaining this occupation to them? And the second question for David Cameron is this: how come your big society is big enough to bomb Libya, big enough to occupy Afghanistan, but too small to keep open a care centre, too small to keep open the local library? My final message after 10 years is to the people of Iraq, the people of Afghanistan and the people of Libya. I believe that one day a British government will apologise to you and make some reparation for the devastation we have brought to your countries over the last 10 years. But until then, all we can say, that those of us who have marched, who have demonstrated, who have protested and who have fought for peace in the last 10 years, we are the people that speak for this country. We stood with you 10 years ago, we stand with you today, and we will stand with you till your countries are free and British imperialism is defeated in Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya and all over the world. So no, get the troops out now, get the troops out now! We say welfare! We say welfare! 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 Welfare!
In 1944 I was 15 years old, and up that road, up the other end of Aldwych, a German flying bomb came along in the middle of the day. The engine cut out as they did, it plunged down onto Aldwych, it smashed into the ground, it exploded, and there was a telephone exchange full of young women just on the side of Aldwych, and bits of young women, heads and arms and limbs, blew out the windows. That's what war was. That's all about it. One little episode of a horrible war. Someone I much respect, Peter Tatchell, wrote to The Guardian and said, "What we go out, we'll increase the Taliban." What we're doing now is increasing the Taliban. That's the whole problem. They are increasing because we're there.
Money for jobs and education, not for war and occupation. Money for jobs and education, not for war and occupation.
We have a parade of the former war leaders, the ones who started this whole affair. A sorry and sordid bunch they look, except for Mr. Blair. He's done well out of the war. He's now a multi-millionaire with 5 houses. But to borrow a phrase from my comrade Andrew Murray, there's not enough water in the River Jordan to expunge that damned spot which will follow him all the way to hell, God willing. In February of 2002, in a debate in the House of Commons, Jack Straw, then the Foreign Secretary, I'm not making this up, said that our forces would be home by Christmas, just like they said in 1914 at the start of World War I. I rose in an intervention and I told Jack Straw our forces would not be home 10 Christmases hence. He laughed theatrically. It's recorded in Hansard in brackets, laughter. He invited the House to laugh along with him, and oh how they laughed. But they're not laughing now. You see, we didn't stop the war, but we discredited it, such that the criminal Blair can walk the streets anywhere in the world except the country of which he was Prime Minister 10 years ago.
We don't want your bloody war! Stay on the welfare state!
On stability, the level of violence is rising, not falling. The number of soldiers killed was an all-time high last year. 711 soldiers killed, more than any other year since the invasion. The number of civilians being killed is also rising, up 15% this year. 2,700 innocent civilians killed last year. And what's more, Afghanistan's nuclear-armed neighbour, Pakistan, has been badly destabilised by the war on terror. It now boasts its own Taliban. Before 2002, there was no Pakistani Taliban. Suicide attacks were virtually unheard of. Since 2002, 35,000 Pakistanis have died as a result of terror-related incidents. Last year alone, there were 300 suicide attacks in Pakistan. There comes a moment where you have to ask, what is more dangerous, terrorism or counter-terrorism? And as for a functioning Afghan state, opium production is up now 150%. It accounts for 90% of the heroin on our streets. Afghanistan today is at the bottom of the UN Index on Development. It has the highest infant mortality rate in the entire world. Karzai's government is considered the second most corrupt government in the world, according to Transparency International Corruption Index.
That's my grandson, that's Kevin. He was killed not by Afghanis, but by the British and American governments. They have the total responsibility for his death. And there are so many Afghanis dying, around about 60,000 now. And apart from wanting to get the British troops home safely, I want the Afghani people to have a chance to live a life.
I've just been speaking to an Afghan woman a few minutes ago who was home for the first time in 20 years. And she said things are getting worse. which is back now.
Things are worse now than they started.
Oh yeah, considerably. I mean, there are thousands of Afghanis dead, lots of British troops dead, American troops, you know, but the one that concerns me most are the Afghani women, children and men who have been killed. There's millions and billions of pounds being spent that this country actually needs, and it's getting wasted on wars. I mean, all the money you get told about, it doesn't include the servicemen's wage pay. That's not included in the money. It's just what's actually been spent on the battlefield. I mean, it's £1 million a week they're paying for the ground crew in Italy to fly to Libya. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I know if some people attack this country, I would be willing to fight back. And that is all the Afghanis are doing. And I admire them so much for it.
Victims of the last 10 years have been the people of Afghanistan. Afghanistan is now one of the poorest countries in the world. Its people have suffered 3 decades of foreign occupation and civil war. The life expectancy in Afghanistan is the lowest in the world. The infant mortality is the highest in the world. The people of Afghanistan are paying with their lives 30,000 dead, and in Pakistan, another 30,000 dead on top of that. But let's not forget, not everybody is made poorer by war. There are many companies which profit from warfare, and that could be the British companies linking up with Israeli companies for the next generation of British drones. The British drones which are currently bombing people in Afghanistan are being made in conjunction with Elbit, the #1 Israeli military weapons exporter. And that means our drones are using technology that has been road tested on Palestinian and Lebanese civilians. And we say we want an immediate embargo on all arms trade with Israel until it applies with international law. We stand in solidarity with all those people living under occupation. The peoples of Iraq, the peoples of Afghanistan, the people of Palestine and the people of Western Sahara. Bring home the troops now and give the Afghan people back their country.